the election were a fraud.
The view there of America's allies. So was this an attempted coup by President Trump's backers? Naunihal Singh wrote the book Seizing Power, The Strategic Logic of Military Coups, which examines attempts to overthrow governments. He's assistant professor at the US Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, and joins us now. Thanks so much for being with us. So if this wasn't exactly a coup in the sense that it wasn't an attempt to gain power, was it an insurrection?
Hello, Laura. Yes, I agree. Personally, speaking for myself and not for the U.S. government, I would class this as an insurrection. It's definitely a threat to democracy. It's an effort to stop a legitimate transfer of power. But what's interesting here is the means that Trump is using to do so. In particular, what you're seeing is that Trump is not acting as a head of state, which is one of the things we would expect to see in a coup. He's not using the tools of the state. He's not using the military. Instead, he's behaving like a demagogue, and he's using a rabble army of ordinary citizens. And this shows us how weak he is. Because he's not using the powers of the state, it's much easier to deal with him. So, for example, Facebook has suspended his Facebook page, and Twitter has cut him off for at least 12 hours. And that limits his ability to have an impact. Similarly, right now, his power comes from the aid and assistance he gets from other politicians. And if we increase the social pressure on those politicians, if we make it clear that their opportunistic behavior today will be remembered for decades to come, we could probably create a separation between the people who are enabling him and the president himself. And without any assistance, he would be just another angry man yelling on the street.
So perhaps then we shouldn't be so concerned, because from what you're saying, when Donald Trump leaves office, you think there's an attempt to restore democratic values.
Certainly, but the flip side of the story is true as well. Because he's not using his formal prerogatives, his formal authorities to cause trouble, he will continue to be able to cause trouble even once he leaves office, if and when that occurs. So this problem may not go away immediately.
And what about the creation of an alternative media ecosystem? And I was there yesterday on Capitol Hill talking to the president's ardent supporters who firmly believe, or choose to believe, that the election was stolen. Is that something that you've seen in anti-democratic efforts that you've studied, this alternative information source?
Certainly. It goes a long way to explaining their motivations. While I believe that many of the politicians who are supporting President Trump are doing so very cynically, I do think that the ordinary people we saw who are engaged in this, some of them are misguided, particularly the ones who were outside but who didn't come inside Capitol Hill. And so the existence of this of this much fake news, of this much misinformation, is a problem. That said, we should not underestimate the extent to which Trump uses the traditional media and Twitter in order to get across his point of view. If he was forced to rely solely on OANN, I don't think he would have the same impact.
Are you surprised by the scenes that you saw here in America yesterday?
I was deeply disturbed. It hurt me, it hurt me in my patriotism. But the thing is, there are antecedents to it. They're just a long time ago. They were after the end of Reconstruction, and they were at the state level. We've never seen anything like this happen inside the Capitol. For one thing, this was the first time, we believe, that someone was able to march with a Confederate flag inside the Capitol. And the symbolic injury from all of that was great, as well as the very real terror that people experienced. You know better than I, since you were close to the action.
Naunihal Singh, indeed. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.